Welcome back to Social Sessions, everybody. I hope everybody is having a good week. We are giving you a very informative episode this week. Um, I know a lot of you guys probably have big social media marketing plans for this year, and we've told you a lot about strategy, but a lot of questions that we get as people who work in social media marketing is like, what software do you use? How do you edit? What camera do you use? Like all the technical stuff like that. So that's really what we're going to be going over today is everything that you need, everything that we use in order to make high quality content this year. Because I see so many people online that are like, these actually piss me off. We'll take a little sidebar really quick. I see so many videos of people being like, this is what you can do to trick the algorithm, or this is what you can do, like just use
Yeah,
a hook and like grab someone's attention. But
yeah,
if your content is bad, if the quality of if you're using like grainy footage and pixelated footage and everything's blurry, it doesn't matter what SEO words you hide. It doesn't matter like what the hook is, because if the content's bad, if it's shaky, like all of that kind of stuff, no one's going to watch it. Because even think about yourself as a viewer. If I scroll and something obviously looks like extremely amateur, extremely shaky, extremely blurry, I don't care what the video's about. I'm not watching it.
yeah. I think we've learned that from our own errors, right?
Yeah, like the content has to be good. Like that needs to come first. The quality of your content needs to come first. And then you can toy around with like the hooks and things like that are all
Mhm.
kind of like extras, but like the hashtags don't matter. The hook that you use doesn't matter. The SEO that you use doesn't matter. None of that matters if your content is bad.
Yep.
So that's why we wanted to go over this. Um, I think this will be a pretty quick episode. So, I mean, you guys will know. It'll tell you how long this is when you're recording it. But as of right now, I'm thinking it'll be a short episode. So, we're just going to dive right into it. We're just going to get right into it. The first thing that you need, which I think some people get in their head about this, of like, I need a nice quality camera and like
Hmm.
I need to spend a ton of money on this camera. Sure, a camera is great, especially if you're like a business account or something like that. Getting high quality camera photos, great. But at this point, like your phone has such a good camera on it. Like as long as you have a pretty up to date phone, it should do just fine. Just
Yeah.
fine.
I think cameras too are a lot. I think when you start to think too much into that, it gets intimidating and it stops a lot of people from moving
Yeah,
forward.
exactly. It's
Yeah.
not a necessity. It's like an add-on, if you will. Like
Yeah.
if you have the camera already and you like have an idea for like photo shoots or creative direction, that's great, but it's not necessary. And it's also like a lot of TikTok type of content is filmed on phones. Even honestly, even like large companies, like I had seen a video from Set Active the other day where
Mhm.
it was like a video where they were interviewing or talking to a bunch of employees that worked there, and then they would kind of show what they do. But one of them
Yeah.
was their social media manager, and she was filming on a phone. So even a company that's that large is still using their
Okay.
phones. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying everything that they do. Obviously, they have bigger campaigns that like have more money behind them and things like that. And that probably has like a videographer and a photographer. But like behind the scenes, like stories type of content, some of their reels, some of their like TikToks are still going to be filmed on a phone. So do not underestimate the power of your phone
They've
camera.
made them so much better. Have you seen the new phone, the newest phone, the quality on it?
Mm-mm.
Have you tried messed with it at all? It's
Mm-mm.
actually really awesome. Yeah, it really is cool.
I also wanted to like under this category give you a few tips on like the setup of your phone. I think the best video quality, I think the best settings that you can have it set to 4K and have it set to 60 frames per second. That way you can slow it down and it's not going to look bad. You can blow it up a little bit more. It's not going to look bad. Also, use the exposure to your advantage. Like there are going to be situations where your exposure is going to be way too high. So turn it down. It's very simple. Just like actually utilize both of
The
those features.
The features on the phone, for sure.
Yeah. So that's your first one is like you don't need. Also, I think that's going to be a through line that you're going to see through this entire episode is you don't need anything insane. You don't need to spend thousands of dollars on anything in order to get good content. Really, the main thing that you need is your phone, and then moving into the next one is good lighting. Those are probably, I'm going to say, if you need to take away two things from this list, those are the two biggest things. Good quality phone with the settings on, right? Lighting.
Yep.
And
Right.
I also think like lighting, here's the thing. It kind of depends on like where you live. I have a really good setup where like I have an entire wall of windows. So I have really good natural lighting. That's typically how I film is during the day with natural lighting.
I just remember when you got your apartment, you were like, it has great lighting. Like that was
I was
what the
so excited.
yeah.
That's literally was on my list. I had two things on my list for my apartment. One was good lighting, and like big windows, and two was a kitchen island. That was
Yeah.
all I like was like I need both of these things because my old apartment faced like my unit faced another building, so no light came in.
Came. Yeah. You know,
So
the lighting is so important in photography and something that I've had to learn and continue to learn because indoor lighting is so much harder. Flash photography is so much harder than just the natural light. And
yeah,
so I've always been like a natural light photographer. Obviously, it's easier. But when you get into those indoor shots, it does get a little harder.
yeah,
But you can always post edit too. I think people
hmm
think they need to know all these technical settings, and a lot of it can be done like post edit with
hmm
Lightroom and those types of features.
it's also like a lot of that stuff is you can learn it. Like I
Mhm.
remember when I had my like commercial photography class in college,
Mhm.
I was in a studio every day basically. So I did learn a lot about like cameras and like ISO and exposure and things like that. Um she what was I thought it was like interesting and kind of beneficial for us is she made us edit or she made us shoot as if like we couldn't edit. She was like there was a time where you couldn't use Lightroom to like
Yeah.
adjust exposure and blah blah blah.
Mhm.
So do it as if you couldn't do that. Like I want you guys to use as minimal editing as possible in your files and she would make us send like the raw files so she would be able to see how much was done in post versus
Mhm.
like the
Which is
actual
a great lesson. A great lesson. I mean, like
yeah,
it's
just learning how to do it. But like I said, a lot of it you can learn online. So don't let the idea of like, oh, I don't know how to do that keep you from
yeah, going
doing it,
forward.
you know? But like Tara said, natural lighting is probably the easiest way to shoot. But I also understand some of you,
Right? Like, I mean, even
yeah,
if you're creating content, just making sure that like you are facing a window or something like that, because that will definitely make a difference in the
yeah,
content.
absolutely. Absolutely. I also think like I did this is like a funny sidebar, but I did
Mhm.
an interview for a reality TV show one time.
Mhm.
And it was like being recorded because he was sending it off to like the production agency and blah blah blah. So when it was just like on a computer. So I obviously sat in front of my window and he was like, turn off all of the lights behind you because it has like a yellow cast. And I
Mhm.
was like, that's so interesting. And then he was like, just don't use any like overhead lighting. I was like, so true. So now I don't film any of my videos with like the lights on in the back, and I don't film anything with overhead lighting if I can avoid it. Because that, I would say, for those of
Make
you that don't know a ton about lighting, overhead lighting is the hardest lighting to work with.
it is. That's why when you
So,
shoot pictures inside at night, like with your family and stuff, it's just like, or, yeah, I don't know. Like when we had a party this weekend, and I was like, God, the light just like sucks so bad. It does give it that
yeah.
yellow. And there's
Yeah, it gives
that.
it a yellow hue. And then the shadows are hard to work with too, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
So, like we said, natural lighting is the easiest and probably the best. But if you can't have that, then definitely invest in like a ring light. Or I know you guys have seen the quote unquote Alex Earl lights on TikTok. I got mine for $7. Like
Mm.
that, I mean, it works, right? It's better than nothing. And then you can adjust it. And what I like about these little lights is that obviously you can clip it onto your phone, but also you can adjust it to like a white light, a yellow light or a mix of the white and the yellow light, which is
Yeah,
nice.
it
But
is.
like I said, none of this stuff has to be expensive. Yeah, are there ring lights that are like exceptionally expensive? Yeah. Do you need that? No. No, you don't. You can get one that's $7 and it works just as well.
Don't we have them in our Amazon shop?
I think so. Yeah. So that's what else I was going to say is that all of this stuff that we are talking about, especially the like tangible physical things, we have an Amazon shop with a link to all of the ones that we recommend. That's going to be in the show notes or the description if you're watching on YouTube.
Love it.
So moving on to the next one is microphones. Now this one, I don't think everybody needs a microphone. It depends on the type of content that you are creating. If you are like close enough to the camera, like
Mhm.
if you're like doing talking head style videos where you're just right in front of the camera and you're talking, then a microphone is probably less needed. But if
Yeah.
you're filming um like, I mean, a good example of these are people do like mic'd up workouts, right? And I'm just using this as an example because they set up a tripod and then they're usually further away from the camera where their camera microphone is not going to be able to pick up what they're saying when they're across the gym, like picking
Yeah.
up whatever they need. You know what I mean? So it works for those situations where you're getting more like wide angle shots, or you might have like more than one person on camera, then it's really nice. Again, super cheap. Like just get the little lapel mics. They do not have to be that expensive. They also have them on TikTok shop for super cheap. They're on our Amazon shop for super cheap. Like none of this stuff. I think when people think of like film and like video production, they think it's really expensive when you probably already have a phone, you probably have a window you can film in front of. The really two things that you might need to buy would be like a microphone and the next thing, which is a tripod.
Yeah. It's funny. While I was trying to set this video up, actually, I went to my trunk because that's where I keep all of like our stuff. Because when I go to shoots or content days, I have 5 tripods. Like I've tried them all. I've tried everything, thinking like one was going to be better than the other, and they're literally all the same. You know,
Yeah,
like
they really are.
it's funny.
So we got some on our things. I mean, some of them definitely have better uses. Like there are the bendy ones, right? That
Mhm.
can be beneficial again depending on where you're shooting. There's
Yeah, there's
also there's the like more portable ones, right? That like they looks like a baton kind of and then it
I
extends.
think I have
So
one
that's
here.
nice like if you're traveling. One that
Maybe.
is
What are these called
yeah,
again?
even one of those. Well, I've seen ones like that. That's like a gimbal.
Yeah, gimbal.
But
This
that
is
whole
actually really hard to maneuver. I
yeah,
don't recommend.
it's like not as easy as it looks. But like
No.
ones like that, but it's as if the whole gimbal top section is gone and it's
Mhm.
just a tripod.
Yeah, those are great.
Also, even easier is those sticky like phone backs. You know what I'm talking about? It looks like those
Great.
suction cups.
Those are
If
great.
you don't want a tripod, like that's easy to stick it to any flat surface.
Do you have one?
No?
I don't know.
No.
I see
I
people
don't
use.
film enough like in public.
Yeah, or like I see a lot of people. Those are what they use in those get ready with me's, right? Like they just stick them to the mirror. I
Oh
mean,
yeah,
they're
just up against the mirror.
yeah, it's awesome. Such
Yeah.
a good.
Well, and it makes it easy too because like that it probably makes it way easier than a tripod because especially in those situations because it's like the tripod usually has some sort of a base so it's like it's
Yeah,
a little bit closer to you than you want it to be and then you have to adjust the height versus like the sticky back things literally just stick it on the mirror where you're already looking, you
yep.
know. And those again super cheap, you guys, there's no excuses. So those are really the only tangible things that we have on this list, but I did want to move into software. Can you think of while we're on this topic, can you think of anything else that's like a thing that you would need to purchase that you would recommend?
Not necessarily. I mean, those are the things we use, and even between all that, um, I've tried them all, and the simpler, the better, right? Like sometimes I think they make it too
Yeah,
technical or like too fancy. That
agreed.
right?
And
This
also like let's be honest, the more technical and the more um like work it's going to be, the less likely it is that you're going to do it,
for sure.
you know? So even just like making it as simple as possible. for yourself is going to benefit you. Okay, moving on to softwares that we use. So, video editing software is huge. Yes, you can edit on TikTok and Instagram. And I think there are videos where that's just easier. Like some videos you don't necessarily need to export out. Like a lot of the videos that I talk on camera, I do right in TikTok
Mhm.
because it just is a little bit easier for me. It feels like an added step that I don't, because I'm not adding transitions. All I'm really doing is shaving things. So that isn't necessary. But when you are doing a lot more, like if you're filming in your camera and not in one of the social media platform apps,
Mhm.
that's a lot easier to import into a video editing software. We
Yeah.
use CapCut,
Cap
CapCut a lot. Um, it's probably like the easiest video editing software I've ever used. Like an idiot could use it. It's so easy.
It really
And
is.
I also like it because they have a desktop version too. And I personally like I don't like editing on my phone that much. I actually, to be completely honest, try and do as little on my phone as possible. I would so much rather export something to my computer and see a bigger screen
Picture.
of it. And then you also don't have to scroll back and forth, like especially when I edit, like for example, when I edit these podcast clips and they're
Yeah.
30 minutes long, it's a
Yeah.
pain in the ass to scroll through. If you're working with like 30 seconds of video, do it on your phone. That's fine.
Yeah.
But when you have longer videos, it's super nice in CapCut. I've also seen they have certain features that are only available on the desktop version. Um,
Yeah.
so
I've
that's
noticed.
what we use a lot. If you want to do something that's like more high end, I use Final Cut Pro a lot, but Adobe Premiere is kind of like industry standard for, I would say, video content.
Yeah.
So again, I don't think that's like necessary, and it definitely is costly for both of those things. They are not cheap. But if you are like really into video content and want to do maybe specifically long form content, those two
It's
are
also too to start
probably,
like, someone start out on one of these smaller ones and then merge into, you know what I mean, once you've kind of mastered that,
yeah, oh
then
for sure.
'cause those other
Even
ones,
like
and they
Adobe
just
has,
and then you're like, I
hmm?
can't do it because I'm not good at
Yeah,
this, you know?
it is quite the learning curve on those other ones. It's a lot more like manual stuff, but you do have a little bit more control over things. But even like if you wanted to get Final Cut Pro, a lot of people will start with iMovie, learn that like in and
Mhm.
out, and then update. Or like Adobe, I think has Adobe Rush or Adobe,
Phone app.
yeah, something like that. I don't know. Learning the smaller grade and just learning how to edit is usually helpful. Like I said, I don't think everybody needs those though. Like if you're just making TikTok content, that you might not need to
People
export it into like a big software,
yeah.
you know? So CapCut is typically the one that we use. Next is a photo editing software. There's so many out there. Lightroom, I think, is kind of the big one that everybody knows that like photographers use. I think that's probably industry standard for photos is Lightroom.
It is, yeah.
Um, Again, takes some tweaking, but like you can definitely learn it. There's a lot to learn. There's a lot you can do in Lightroom, but yeah, mess around with it. Photo editing is, I mean, video editing too, but photo editing specifically is like, it's just trial and error. You just try things until you figure out what you like. Like, there's really no
Right or wrong, it
one
becomes
way to
something
do it. Yeah.
yeah, I feel
So
like.
you just kind of mess around with it. I mean, Lightroom's nice too because if you want to use a preset, I don't know how many people use presets anymore. I feel like they're kind of um
On.
not as
There are those
popular.
management ones that will just, like, auto do it, you
Yeah.
know?
Well, presets are nice, I think, in Lightroom, but I think at this point most editing apps have this, but I think they're nice in the sense of like if you edit a certain way, you edit like let's say you have a batch of photos in the same, like the lighting's the same, you know what I mean? Like let
That you can
even product photography. Yeah, you edit one of them and then you just like save that one edit as a preset, copy and paste it to all of the other ones and then adjust it. So that's nice. But like I said, I think a lot of editing softwares have that, but Lightroom is kind of industry standard. I really love Tezza because I
Same,
like the um for my
'cause
personal
she's
account. I guess if you wanted to get hmm?
best at everything. If you don't follow Tezza, she is the actual girl that created it. Do you follow her?
Mm, I can't remember. I know who she is, but I don't remember if I follow her.
She's like OG blogger from Utah, but she's just so creative, and I've been following her forever. And when she started to do when she finally released the app, which is basically like all of her, because you see her go through this journey of presets, of like
Yeah.
styles to her photos, but then she releases them to the public and like on her app, and
Yeah.
it's really cool to like have her aesthetic kind of like over your image. It's pretty interesting.
Yeah. And there's so many and you can mess around with it. You can edit like you don't have to use a preset either, which is nice. You can use a preset and then change like certain things. Like if you like this one filter, I hate to call them filters. You can
I
use
do
this
too.
one preset and then like adjust the brightness or you can adjust, the warmth or whatever. But I personally like it the most for the like camera ones. Like you can make it look like a disposable or you can make it like the photo booth one. That's what
Yep.
I like it for. Or there's a
Yep.
stop motion feature for
Stop.
videos that I really like.
Yeah. And there's all the ones that add like this glimmer or the
Yeah.
where that
You can
whole
add
like
like texture and stuff.
yeah, so good.
Yeah. So I like that one a lot. I think if you have like more of a creative leeway, that's a good one. Um I think a lot of like bloggers and like influencers use it a lot. I don't know how many businesses use it because it is a little bit more lifestyle-y, I would say. But if you
Yeah.
have like a fun campaign where you can kind of lean into that a little bit more, then
Mhm.
that's good. The last one that I wanted to talk about is Facetune. This is not for everybody. I don't think everybody needs this, but for us, I think it's helpful with the clients that we have really up close, like for the really up close photos. Like I remember when I had a client who's a lash artist. The photos were really of just the eyes. The skin was not the point of the photo, but it looks like higher quality when it's like smoother skin. You don't see all their pores. You don't see blah 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 things like that. So that's where I would use Facetune. I actually used Photoshop before a lot for her, but Facetune has
Does
gotten easier.
yeah.
So things like that, again, I think it really only applies when you have pretty up close photos. Otherwise, I'm not the biggest fan of Facetune except for that
Yeah,
like
Audrey's not a big
specific
editor.
niche.
She doesn't love over
No,
editing.
it feels so fraudulent. It drives me freaking crazy when people do it. I'm like, I can't stand it. I can't. I had one girl one time, I think I shared this. I had one girl post a photo and I was in the photo and she facetuned the shit out of all of us. And I was like, I'm not going to say anything. It's your page. I don't even recognize myself, babe. Like, what are you doing? Why do I have 10 extra pounds of hair? Like, I was just like, what is this? I remember screenshotting it and sending it to my friends. And I was like, please look at this photo. This is like the most insane thing I've ever seen that doesn't even look like me.
Yeah, there's definitely a line of like over editing.
Yeah, it's just not.
I think under eyes is a big one, like just like taking circles out from under eyes and then just like taking blemishes away or dots
Yeah,
all
I
over.
mean, I think there's a place like if you're doing headshots or something, or you
Mhm.
just like want to make your client feel better about the
It
way
does
that
make
they
the
look. Like,
clients feel better though when they see their stuff and they're like, "Dang, I
yeah,
look so
but
good,"
I
and
will also say like it's really easy to overdo it. Like we had one client who every photo she sent of everyone in their office,
oh
I was like, so bad. I was like, you look, and here's the thing is you can tell if somebody has airbrushed their skin because it kind of extends past their face or their like hair. There's like a halo, like there's a glow around them. You can
Mhm.
see it. Okay. So like if I can see it, everyone that you're posting that to can see it too. And it just looks you start to lose like definition in your nose and you don't look like a real person anymore.
Yeah.
So there is a line. That's why I'm like, I think it's very niche. I think maybe use it for headshots, maybe use it for like up close photos. That's really
Mhm.
all I would recommend it for. I wouldn't say use it on the regular. I would say use it
Like, use it
sparingly.
on the body.
Yeah. Oh my God. The body thing is like, I get that girls used to do that. I had never downloaded Facetune until last year actually, because I only used
Really?
it for one client who would constantly be like, "Can you smooth their skin? Can you smooth their skin? Can you smooth their skin?" That I was like, Fine, fine." But I'm not a fan of Facetune. I think I just am like,
I
I
like
don't know.
Face App. Use that one.
No, to be honest, all of them, like again, until I had one specific client ask me these things, and I only did it because I used to do it in Photoshop, and that felt like less icky. But Facetune feels
Ooh,
very like icky
icky,
to me. Yeah,
slimy,
a
liar.
little bit.
Yeah.
A little bit. Like, I'm not judging anyone that does it, but, like, I don't like it.
Yes, I know.
So like I said, use it sparingly. On to graphic design tools. Canva, I'm sure all of you guys have heard of it. Everybody uses Canva. It's, again, so user-friendly. Like, I started in graphic design using Illustrator and Photoshop, and to go from that to Canva is, like, night and day in terms of user-friendly, like, user abilities.
Yeah.
So and it's easy too in the sense of like, I'm guessing a lot of you are not graphic designers, right? Like, and that's fine. I'm not technically by trade either. I know how to do it. And like, I had some schooling on it, but that's not like, there's some people who are so creative and that's what they do. And they're in Photoshop and they're in Illustrator because, again, I would say those two are the industry standard in terms of like high quality graphics. Like, I have a friend that does graphics for like bands and musicians, and her stuff is so good. I could never do those things, right? That's just not
Yeah.
it. It's very clear that it's not a Canva template. It's very like, so there's so many layers to it and she's so talented, right? So if that's what you want, Canva probably won't be able to do that for you, but if you're just like a small business or you are even a larger business, Canva is going to cut it for a lot of you.
It is. You
So
can.
again, depends on what you.
I think, like you said, industry standard and those experts, like those are expert platforms. I feel like for graphic
Yeah.
design, I wouldn't see them.
Yeah.
I doubt many of those by trade use Canva. I'm sure they
Right.
do.
Even, I mean, even down to like, it's just you have a lot more control in
Yeah.
Photoshop, and it's a
Hmm.
lot more like you can make little tweaks. Um, even in like people that do branding, right? That's why there's people who do branding, because you can do like custom fonts, you can do things that you can't necessarily do in Canva. There's a reason that people that do branding are they're graphic designers, right? Like that's what they are by trade. So I think if you want really high quality graphics, don't do it yourself. Like, simply hire a graphic designer, hire someone to do that, because it is a lot of work, it is a lot of creativity. But if you're not looking for something that looks like insane, and it's just, I mean, a Canva graphic when you see it, right? Like, but
Yeah,
I
you
would
do.
say most things are Canva graphics at this point. Like, we're getting so used to it.
Yeah,
So it just depends on like the caliber that you're looking for in your graphics. But I'm going to assume that most of us can get by using Canva.
definitely.
And lastly, I think a scheduling tool is the last thing that you really need. We use Later, but there's 8 million tools out there. I think the most common ones that are used like within the industry would be Later, Sprout Social, Hootsuite, and every now and again I hear of people using Planoly, but I think that's more of a lifestyle.
Yeah, I think it's
I
more of
don't.
a, like an influencer base or like
Yeah.
a, yeah, than
So I think in terms
a
of
work.
like businesses, I think Hootsuite, Later, and Sprout Social are probably the most common. Also, the most common because you get a lot more than just a scheduling tool with them. All of those have Sprout Social, especially, I think, is very known for this, but you get additional analytics on top of all of it. Like, they serve you a lot more like background type of stuff that you can use. Like I said, analytics that you can use to then better your content, stuff that you're not necessarily finding on Instagram or finding on TikTok, things that they're doing on the back end.
I also seen later is incorporating like influencer collaboration tools and things like that, where you can like
Yeah, so there's a lot of
sometimes.
benefits to those outside of just scheduling. I would look into all of them. Like I said, Sprout Social is the most known for analytics. So if that is like your number one thing, maybe use that. Later I think is pretty user friendly. I also think like I said or like you said, they've got some influencer stuff on there. They also have an AI type of caption writing
Mhm.
tool. There's different tools that I think each one of them comes with. So I think it depends on what you prefer. I think all of them will do the job. All of them are good platforms, but determining what is the most important to you is maybe how you will choose one. But I
Also,
just think,
Planoly and Unum like fall into that. I think they're more phone based. Like
yeah,
I don't think they even have. Maybe they do. I feel like it's just
Planoly definitely has one on, they have a
computer.
desktop. That's how I used to, yeah, but I'm going to be honest, like, again, Planoly I think is a lot more like influencer based, but I used it in like 2019 and I don't think they've developed, or like 2018, and I don't think they've moved past
That.
that. Like I don't think they've grown. They've
Yeah.
changed a lot since 2018, 2019. I think there's definitely platforms that are a little bit better
I met the girls
than,
that built once.
I
That
mean,
actually,
and I think,
you remember the homemade? You remember I told you I went to that like thing with Andy in Palm Springs, and it was actually the homemade social girl that did like an influencer like training thing. It was like a 3-day weekend, but they
yeah.
had all these like courses within it, and one of them was planning, and Planoly, the girls that like created that software were there. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, I think they had a big I do feel like I don't, maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like they made it for like more influencer types,
They
right?
did.
I'm assuming the goal was more so to make like your grid aesthetic and match,
Cohesive, yeah.
right?
Mhm.
So I mean, with that being their main goal, it makes sense that they kind of apply to like the influencer demographic a little bit more.
Yeah.
So that's all I have on everything
Tools.
that you need. Yeah, and like I said, nothing is like over the top, nothing is insane, nothing is going to break the bank. Most of this stuff you probably already have and it's just actually utilizing it.
Yeah.
Is there anything that we missed that you can think of?
I would look at my phone, but I'm filming. I don't think so. I don't
Same,
think
I
so.
know.
I know it's hard
Cool.
to. I mean, hey,
Well,
it's good in front of my head. It's like I keep like
yeah, you have to be like locked in.
locked in.
Yeah. Well, that's all we've got for you guys this week. If you enjoyed this episode, I would love it if you rate and reviewed the podcast, gave us a little review, let us know what you think, and we'll talk to you guys next week.
Talk next week. Bye.